Hi, I'm Simon and I'm a misfit.
And I'm Adam and I'm a misfit too.
So welcome back to our instructional video series of how to create a sculpture of a pensioner who will be sitting on a rock, leaning forward, feeding a couple of birds from his hands. In this video, what we're going to do is show you how to put all of the pieces that we've built so far, the arms, the legs, the head, the hat, the birds, etc., all together so you've got one metal mesh sculpture. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to secure this guy to the rock so we've got a fixed seating position. So what we're going to do is we're going to decide where he's going to sit on the rock. Roughly in the center, maybe forward a little bit is a great position. And we're going to find any loose prongs on the rock that we can tie to the body. If there are no loose prongs, we can just cut a couple there and tie them in. So now I've got the back of him nice and secured. In order to reach the areas like directly under him and closer up front, it can be really tricky working under the legs. So what I'm going to do, I can cut a little slit here, which allows me to reach my hand in, and then we're going to close it up again afterwards. So now we have our old man attached to the rock. Before we move forward, just double check that you haven't tied him too tight on one side, for example, and giving him a lean, because we don't want that. Now we're going to start paying a bit of attention to his posture and his sitting stance. We're going to decide how the legs are going to be positioned. I'm thinking one leg in a 90 degree and one leg kicked back a little bit. I think that's a natural way that he might sit. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great. So why don't you show us how we go about attaching the legs?
Sure. So what we're going to do is detach what we got here, like this, and just shift it underneath like this. That way we got a straight line from here to where the kneecap would be. Okay, so we're going to temporarily attach it with one prong, and we have that 90-degree angle that we just talked about. So now we'll take the other leg, which we want to bring back to the rock, and you can see here that we have a huge gap in between this point and this point. So what we need to do is make an incision, 3 squares in, 1, 2, 3, and 1 square over, 1 on both sides, 2. And that allows us to open this up and bring these 2 points together, just like on the other leg. And again, temporarily attach it. Why we're temporarily attaching it is because we still need to put the shoes on and make any final adjustments with the leg. Now that we have our legs in a temporary position, we're going to throw on the shoes and position everything the way we like it, and then secure it all. So we're going to take this, make sure at the bottom of the leg, all your prongs are going straight down, because we're going to stick them in to the bottom of the shoe, allowing those prongs to stick out through the heel, and then fold it over to secure it. We have both shoes attached. We like this position of the left leg. So we discussed that we want to bring this leg back, but when we do that, we notice that the foot, it's in a really weird position, so it's not natural at all. So what we need to do is make an incision on the bottom of the foot. Now that I've made the incision, I can slide the foot back, and you can see how that cut made a nice angle here, nice natural angle and bend in the foot. We're going to play with it a little bit and get to a position that we really like. You can see Simon's pushing the leg down a little bit. And I think that looks pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, let's tie everything in.
Okay, we got the legs all put together. We got them in the position that we like. Now you'll notice there's still some big holes at the end of the knees here. So what I did was took a piece of big mesh, 7 squares long by 3 squares wide. And what we're going to do is count 3 squares in to the center here, and just make a cut on one side and make a cut on the other side. And what that allows us to do is to bend this and give it a nice shape that fits right over the knee. and I'm gonna attach that now. We're gonna do that for both sides.
So here we have Adam in the same position as the sculpture right now, with a relatively straight back, very rigid. Let's see what happens if he leans forward in this kind of posture that an old man would be in if he's feeding birds. So you see he's a lot more slouched, and actually what happens is the length of the back extends a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to measure Adam's back first in the straight up position and then in the slouch forward position, so then we know how much extra length we need to add to the body here. So I'm going to pick a spot directly in between the shoulders of Adam, down to his waist, which is precisely the same spot that we have open here on the neck of the sculpture, to where it joins up with the butt. So if I measure this, we have 48 centimeters. Now slash forward. And then here we go to 54 centimeters. So we add a whole nother 6 centimeters. When we create the arch in the back, what we're going to do is divide the back into 3 sections, 3 equal sections, which allows us to spread the curve so we have a nice continuous curve rather than having the curve in just one spot. So precisely with Adam's back, we measured 48 centimeters, which is from the top of the back here right to where it joins with the butt. So therefore, every 16 centimeters, we're going to cut all the way from one side, right the way across to the other side, which allows us to bend the whole shape of the torso forward. So here we're having a very, very nice shape, a nice curved shape. We measured a total additional 6 centimeters that we need to add. We're just going to divide that in 2 and add 3 centimeters to each section of the back. And I'm going to tie a strip to preserve that distance. So with a strip of the big mesh, 3 squares by 16 squares, it gives us a great size to close off this section that we've cut open. And we're going to do the same again for the second strip. So now we've added our 6 centimeters to the back. We need to reduce exactly the same amount, 6 centimeters to the front. Now, if you think about when you bend forward, there's mainly one pivot point at the front, which is roughly where the ribs are. So we're going to make one cut at that level where the ribs will be on the sculpture and bring that in 6 centimeters shorter. So now we have a very nice natural posture of the back. It's hunched forward a little bit. We've corrected the front. Now, most older gentlemen, they'll have a little bit of a pot belly, so we thought we would add a bit of a belly on this guy also. What we have here is a strip of the big mesh, which is 15 squares long by 8 squares wide. And we're going to attach this, we're going to find the center of this strip and attach it in the center, right where his legs make contact with the body. Now we're going to bring the top up to just below the ribs, and that's going to give us a nice little shape for the belly, a nice little curve here. Now to taper the belly, we're going to, for both sides, cut 5 squares in directly at the center, which allows us to taper these edges and fold them in. Now we just want to overlap 1 square and bring that into the side. And that's going to give us a nice little curved belly on the side.
Okay, the next step is to attach the arms. So when we put the arms on, we need to create a little pocket right underneath the armpit here. So how we do that is find the center of the shoulder socket and cut 3 squares down like this. That way we can fold this in to create a space for the arm to come into. The next step is to take the upper part of the arm, this guy here, and we're going to attach it to the sculpture at the outside of the arm, outside of the cylinder, to the point of the shoulder right here. And we're going to do that for both sides. So we got both arms attached now.
Okay, we're now at the point where we want to attach the lower part of the arm to the upper part of the arm. Now, if we were attaching it to a straight arm, it would be very logical in the sense you just add the 2 cylinders together. But what happens in the case of a bent arm, which this sculpture will be, the end of the forearm effectively goes inside the upper part of the arm. So what we need to do is we need to open up the end of the upper part of the arm of this sculpture to allow us to insert the lower part of the arm in. And I've just attached that with a couple of prongs so we still have enough movement so we can decide on a final posture. So now we've attached the forearms to the upper arms. The next step is to correct the posture of both of the arms. If you look at how somebody sitting in this posture will be sitting, his forearms will be resting up against the thighs, near where the elbows are, like such. So we're going to attach the forearms to the thighs just here. Now we have his overall posture in place. We're just going to tie in all of the loose prongs around the shoulders and the elbow where we lift them.
Okay, so now we're going to attach the hands. We're going to cut 2 squares up the wrist, open it up like we did the elbow, and then insert the wrist of the hand. Yeah?
Okay, so if you look at the picture of Adam's hands, we've replicated that in the position of the hands here. So now we've got the whole body, the posture of the body in place. The next step is to add a neck and a head. So we're going to show you how to do that now. So I'm going to measure the circumference of Adam's neck, which is 36 centimeters. So we're going to use the trusty rope technique. 36 centimeters. That gives us exactly 28 centimeters. So now that we have Adam's circumference reduced down to 28 centimeters, we've cut a bit of the big mesh. We have exactly 28 centimeters plus an extra square, which is a total of 12 squares across, and 16 squares down. The reason it's so long is because once we make our cylinder, we want to insert it all the way into the head, and we also want to have enough length to insert into the body, and we can make adjustments with it. We've got some play. So I'm going to make a cylinder with this guy now. Okay, now we're going to insert the neck cylinder inside the head all the way to the top of the crown. And now we can insert the neck plus the head, which are now attached together, into the cavity here. We've inserted the neck into the body. Now, when Adam was sitting in this posture, I measured the distance in a straight line from the back of his head right here to right in between the shoulders, and that measured 29 centimeters, which is exactly the same as this guy. We want to make sure the neck's not too long or too short. We also want to make sure there's a bit of a gap between the chin and the chest. It's not pushing right up against the chest. So we're going to tie that in.
Okay guys, we got our guy secured to the rock. We got his arms on, we got him in his final position, legs, feet, everything. So now all that's left now is to secure the hat. So for me, I'm going to secure it a little bit back and a little bit tilted to the side. That's the way my granddad used to wear it. So just like that, and then just take a couple loose prongs and secure it on. So 1, 2, and 1 on this side. Just like that. Yep, that looks good. Perfect.
As far as the birds are concerned, we're going to attach them in the next video when we small mesh everything. So until then, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you next time.